Welcome back, Beans Army, to another episode of the Less is More Sports Podcast, the college offseason podcast, where you could say we're less of the regular season, but more of the offseason. We got a ton of topics to talk about because this is officially time for Matt and I's annual Cap or No Cap segment covering the 2023-2024 college basketball season. And we're going to go ahead and dive right in. Just a quick reminder, though, we love all of our listeners, but if you are listening on the Spotify channel, this is the one episode you might want to switch to the YouTube channel just to see all the hats Matt and I are going to wear. So without further ado, we're going to dive right into it. Like I said, we got a lot to talk about today. And I'm going to get it started with our first narrative of our cap or no cap. And that is Kansas should be preseason number one and the national championship favorites. Matt, what do you got?
You know what, Les? I'm just going to say this to start. I have so many hats that even when I say no cap, I'm going to wear a hat anyway because, damn it, I got them out and I love my hats. And although I'm putting on a cap, this is no cap to me. Number one, it's the preseason. Preseason rankings matter about hill beans. But what I do like about Kansas is the fact that they do have a great lineup on paper. You're bringing back Harris. You're bringing back McCullough Jr. You've brought in Hunter Dickinson. You've brought in Nick Timberlake. You've got KJ Adams. You've got one hell of a lineup. And let's not forget they've added other guys too, like Parker Braun. And, we're not going to get into the Arterio Morris situation right now. But just purely from a basketball standpoint, he's a good player. Kansas has a lot of depth. They've returned some starters. They've got good players. So I am saying no cap to Kansas being number one because they have just brought back so much talent and brought in Hunter Dickinson and Nick Timberlake and Parker Braun and guys like that to help make them deeper.
So, as you know, I ran a Twitter poll for each one of these 12 questions we got, and Twitter says that this narrative is cap. And of course, I don't have as many hats as you, so I'm only going to wear the cap when it's not true. But that's cap to me. Look, I don't get the hype around Kansas at all. I'm going to be completely honest. This roster reminds me of a better coached version of last year's Purdue team. You know, the team that lost to a 16 seed in the NCAA tournament. And what I mean by that, it's one big guy surrounded by a bunch of good role players. I don't see a Jalen Wilson or a Grady Dick on this team. That's somebody that can create their own shot in crunch time. Hunter Dickinson can say what he wants. I know you've heard the comments about how much better they are than everyone else, but nobody's scared of them. But I think given my hoodie and my hat, it should pretty much tell you who my preseason number one and national championship favorites should be. And that's the
Michigan
Duke Blue
State.
Devils. You're funny. Anyways, and y'all have heard me say this a million times on this podcast. 4 returning starters, first time since the 2009-10 season in which they won the national championship. They went 19-1 last year when they were fully healthy, undefeated at home, were ACC tournament champions, and that was all under a first-year head coach, Jon Scheyer, who just got an extension, by the way. Shout out to Coach Scheyer. Oh yeah, and they got the number 2 recruiting class coming in. So for me, Duke should be the preseason number 1 team in the country, should be the preseason national championship favorites. But like you said, this is the preseason. All this means a hill of beans. Nothing matters until the season actually starts. But Kansas, I don't get the hype at all. So I've watched them play in their scrimmages. I've watched them play in their, midnight at the fog or whatever the hell they call it. I don't even know. Doesn't even really matter. You get the point what I'm trying to say. Kansas, not impressed with them. Hunter Dickinson, nobody's scared of y'all. Quit the cap, bro. So you ready to move on number 2?
Let's hit it.
All right. Number 2. The Big East is the best conference. Twitter says cap. Matt, what you got?
Twitter is wrong here. They are the conference of champions this year to me in college basketball. You've got UConn, you've got the resurgent St. John's, you've got Georgetown, you've got Providence, you've got Villanova, a team we're not talking about enough, who brought in a lot of transfers like Trey Burton. They're going to be good. Kyle Neptune's going to have a rebounding year there. You've got resurgence in all kinds of programs. You've even got Holloway trying to prove himself at Seton Hall. You've got the Creighton Blue Jays with Ryan Kalkbrenner and Baylor Shireman and Stephen Ashworth coming out of the transfer portal. The Big 10, 12 or Big 12, the Big East Conference is as deep as it's ever been. And I mean, even the teams that I don't think are good, like Butler, have guys like Posh Alexander. I think it's going to be one hell of a conference, and we're going to want to watch every time we hear that da 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 on Fox because it's going to be basketball time, and the Big East is appointment television. It's going to be so much fun.
I agree. Twitter is wrong. And this is no cap for me. And I pretty much agree with everything Matt said. So I'm not really going to repeat any of Matt's talking points here. So I'm just going to sum this up by saying the Big East is so good that either you're the GOAT of hot takes or you just deserve to be in Arkham if you don't think they're the best conference in college basketball. Look, I get the SEC has the most preseason teams in the top 25. I get the Big 12 is always good. But I don't know about you, Matt. I don't see a sorry team in this roster at all.
No,
Every conference game is going to be a freaking war, and that's just all I have to say about that. Total Stone Cold Thunder style. So, anyways, you ready to move on to number 3?
I'm ready if you're ready.
All right, number 3. Now, this one is right up our alley as a college offseason podcast. The transfer portal is ruining college basketball. Twitter says cap. What you got, Matt?
Twitter, you've redeemed yourself because that is cap. And you know what? I love Portal Wars. That's why I'm wearing my Star Wars hat right now.
Oh, I
Because
love it. I love
I
it.
love the transfer portal wars. I love the fact that in addition to these players making money, which they haven't been able to do in a long time, it adds in an extra level of intrigue to the offseason because now instead of waiting 4 years for a guy to develop, you can go out, give him a car dealership like enhancement deal, and he's your starting point guard, and you're in the final four. We saw it last year. There was a good balance of teams who used transfer portals like Miami to get good, and teams that used good old fashioned program building in FAU and San Diego State to get good. It's proven now that you can do both and still have a really fun NCAA tournament. And it's just fun to watch these players explore new environments, to watch how teams address their needs, and to watch guys from mid majors step up to the next level and dominate in these major conferences. And we have a great class of those guys coming in, but we'll get to them when I break down the teams a little bit later. But no, transfer portal is not ruining college basketball because number one, the players are making money. Number two, it's been proven that it didn't cause Duke and North Carolina to win all of their title games last year. And number three, we forget it goes both ways, and some mid-major guys and some major school guys are going back to the mid-majors and reinventing their careers there and creating some pretty good upset runs. So no, that's cap. Portal wars are here to stay, and I am happy as a clam.
Which I actually debated on even pulling this hat out because I learned last night that this hat is bad luck. I was talking to my grandpa yesterday at a family dinner, and when I was watching the Texas Houston game, I didn't have the hat on, and Texas jumped out to the 21-point lead. And then I put the hat on to go over to the family dinner, and then Houston comes back and ties the game at 21. So I think we've established that this hat is bad luck, and I cannot wear this hat on game days. But as for but Texas is not playing today, and we have a podcast to do, and especially a cap or no cap episode. So, long story short, Twitter, you did redeem yourself. This is absolute cap. And I mean, Matt, what are we? We're a college off-season podcast, and this just adds to the excitement of the off-season, and because it adds topics for like our shows and the hypotheticals that we create to talk about. And coming off the biggest transfer portal in college basketball history, it made the offseason must follow television or must follow topics. And we get to see where all the top players are going to play next. I mean, you look at the Hunter Dickinson's going to Kansas, even though I just shaded him, I guess, but I mean, still was a big name player that's showing up at a new place. This also, like you said, it adds to parity in college basketball and it spreads the talent across the college basketball landscape. And like you said, even adding to the mid majors. And to top it off, new hire coaches should love this because, like you said, this allows them to speed up the rebuilding process and not just have to rely on recruiting classes, gaining experience over 4 years. You can like bring in some transfer guys and they're ready to go right away. So this is absolute cap to me. And Twitter, Matt and I think we all got it right on this one.
I think we did.
Anyways, moving on to number 4. Zach Edey will repeat as college basketball player of the year. Twitter says cap. Matt, what you got?
I agree with Twitter again. I'm going with cap here as I wear an Indiana themed hat to talk about Indiana.
They do
I don't have a
play the Browns right after the show too.
I know that's going to be either way. Zach Edey. This is not to diss Zach Edey. This is not to insult Purdue at all. But it just doesn't happen that often, and that's the problem. And whether you want to admit it or not, the stink of what happened last year in the NCAA tournament will linger. And there are just so many other good big men out there this year. And there are so many good point guards as well that I don't see it happening. I think someone else. Purdue kind of came out of nowhere, or not a couple years ago with Edie, and then last year we expected them to be good. This year we expect them to be even better. So there's kind of a now you're expected to be good. You don't have to be player of the year anymore. There will be somebody else who captures that narrative this year, I think, because of the way this college basketball season will go, because I'm expecting it to be absolutely wild, insane, bonkers, off the wall, whatever you want to say about it. I'm expecting this season to be absolutely wild. And I think someone will come out of the woodwork and capture a new narrative a little bit better than Zach Edey does. This doesn't mean Zach Edey's a bad player. This doesn't mean Purdue's a bad team. I'm not dissing them for that. What I am saying is that I think it's a narrative based award, and the narratives around Purdue are starting to dry up outside of a redemption arc. And we know they're good, and we know that probably what happened with Tobin Anderson isn't going to happen again. So they're not going to get FDU this time, and I think people will find another story and another player and go with them instead of Zach Edey for 2 straight years.
Of course, this is Cap to me. And Twitter, you are definitely redeeming yourself with this one. This is Cap to me. I'm not a fan of predicting players to repeat awards. It's another reason why I didn't have Caleb Williams winning the Heisman in our Cap or No Cap college football edition. Like you said, once they do it, it's almost the expectation to do it again. So, I mean, if you put up the same numbers, have the same performances, you already won it once, you're expected to do it. So this time, this is my lame pun of the podcast. It won't be as easy to do it this time around. But but anyways, my choice may be a little bit of a homer pick, but I really don't care. My choice is Max Abmas, who has the seventh best odds to win the award according to BetMGM. But we're talking about midcourt Max playing with the big boys. If he can translate his bucket getting to not only the Power Five, but one of the best conferences at that, you have to give it to him at this point. I can see him having a similar production style to what Trae Young had at OU, and actually has experience on his side, because remember, Trae Young was a freshman, and he won't hit that freshman slump that Young did. So Max Abmas is my choice to win the player of the year. Maybe a little bit of a homer pick. Don't really care. He's got the resume at Oral Roberts to back up everything I just said. So that's what I got for number 4. You ready to move on to number 5?
I am.
Number 5, hold on, let me take this off. Number 5, the ACC is Duke's to lose. Twitter says no cap. Matt, what you got?
It's no cap, but I
have to remind myself that you're putting on hats regardless. So
I know I love my hats because we're the Atlantic Coast. We're steaming down the coast. No, it is Duke's to lose, but it's not going to be easy because we all know about North Carolina. We're not going to talk about North Carolina, but it seems like we're sleeping on a team that made the Final Four last year, the Miami Hurricanes. I know that Isaiah Wong is gone, but they still got Nigel Pack. They've still got Norchad Omier, and they've added in Matthew Cleveland, the big 6'7" forward from Florida State. And they still, even after that, have Wooga Poplar. They've got 4 really good guys and a lot of momentum and a good coach in Jim Larinaga, and that's a lot to say. But another team I'm also telling you to buy stock in now, and I'm probably going to curse them for this, would be the Clemson Tigers. They've got a lot of shooters. I mean, you're bringing back PJ Hall, you're bringing back Chase Hunter, and they've got a lot of really good transfers in Jack Clark from North Carolina State, big center Boz Laeti from UNC Greensboro, and Joe Girard from Syracuse. Remember him, the guy you love to hate? Well, he's in Clemson.
He's on Clemson. Yeah, I forgot he's in Clemson now.
Throwing a 6'5" guy and Jake Heidebreaker from Air Force coming in. They've got some good They've got a pretty good depth and pretty good shooting. So I mean, yes, Duke returning 4 starters. They've got a lot of momentum themselves. They've got a lot of really good players. They probably will win the conference, but it's not going to be easy. And I'm telling you now, don't sleep on Miami. They've got some depth issues, but when they've got guys, they've got dudes. And don't sleep on Clemson because they can shoot really well, and they've got a lot of surprising depth. So don't be surprised when you're looking at the standings if you see Miami and Clemson up there with North Carolina and Duke. But yes, Duke will win.
Obviously, it's no cap for me. They're my natty favorites. So, I mean, that would be very hypocritical if I said, oh, they're my natty favorites, but I don't expect them to win the ACC. That'd be a little lame. But teams I do think that can compete and give them a run for their money. I am going to bring up North Carolina. I think Elliot Cadeau adds a better dynamic running the show than Caleb Love did. And they got to bounce back from an embarrassing season last year. They just have to, or Hubert David's seat is literally on fire at this point. Miami, you already talked about, so I'm not even going to touch on that. But sleepers, like you said, Clemson, PJ Hall, aka Hoops Miles Teller, he's back. Yeah, I totally forgot about Girard transferring in. That adds another shooter. Virginia is always good. You always got to, look at them. I'm going to tell you a team that I don't think a lot of people are talking about that I could very, very well see them sneakily contending from the ACC, and I might curse them for this, but watch out for Syracuse. They got a new coach. I expect them to not be stuck in that 2-3 zone that Boeheim had them run for all those years. And the backcourt of Judah Mintz and JJ Starling, I think, is going to be top 3 in the conference. So watch out for Syracuse. It's not going to be easy in the ACC, but ultimately Duke wins. Blue Devil Nation, baby. The Brotherhood. Hashtag.
Did you have to throw the hashtag with that?
I had to. We are on social. We are on like every platform of social media we could possibly be on. So I mean, we got to have hashtags to get.
I know.
Anyways, moving on to number 6. Kentucky is back and will win the SEC. Twitter says no cap. What you got, Matt?
I'm putting a half cap on this, even though I'm wearing the big cap. I think Kentucky is setting themselves up now as a program to be one of those teams that peaks around the right time in March because they're usually young. And I think that's how they're setting up now. So I expect them, with all the talent they've acquired as through freshmen, to go on a little bit of a deep tourney run, but I don't expect them to win the SEC conference. To me, the SEC conference will come down to 2 teams, and those 2 teams are Tennessee and Texas A&M. Tennessee is at what?
No, I'm continue. I'm just like I like it because it's not who I have, but
good. I mean,
good. Yeah, exactly. That's a good thing.
Tennessee is bringing back Josiah Jordan James, Santiago Vescovi, and Zakai Ziegler. They've added some good transfers from UC Upstate and Jordan Gainey and Dalton Neck from Northern Colorado. I really like them, but I like Texas A&M a little bit more because you're returning 4 out of 5 starters, and you've got a guy in Wade Taylor IV who's going, I think, to be a Player of the Year candidate. But the way he does it, he's a great guard, and you're giving him things he's familiar with. I expect a breakout from Tyrese Radford. I think he's going to be even better. They've added some good guys in the transfer portal in Jace Carter, Wildens Levesque, and Eli Lawrence to get some better shooting and some big men. They've got, like I said, they've got 4 starters coming back. And Les, here's the thing that scares me. They're returning 88.4% of their scoring. And they've brought in guys who can shoot better than what they had last year, and guys like Eli Lawrence. So I'm taking a veteran team that I don't think a lot of people are talking about and may shock you. And I really am looking forward to seeing what Wade Taylor does this year because I think Texas A&M will win the SEC this year. But I don't think Kentucky. I think Kentucky will go on a pretty deep run. But like I said, when you're trying to win in conference play, it's about veterans and not trying to figure it out as much. So I'm going to go with Texas A&M to win the conference, with Tennessee close behind.
I'm going to half cap this as well. I think they'll be much better than the last 3 years. Obviously, they're too talented not to be. And Cal is back to his bread and butter with the one and dones and not going after the transfer classes, which I feel like has been a failed experiment over the last 3 years. But at the end of the day, they're all still freshmen for the most part, and as talented as they are, that's still a lot of youth to me. And this SEC conference is too good to predict a team that young to win it. But my 2 teams that I'm torn between aren't Tennessee and Texas A&M. Mine are Arkansas and Alabama. I look at Arkansas. Trayvon Brazile is back. 6 new transfers, including Chandler Lawson from Memphis and L. Ellis from Louisville, plus 5 stars Layden Blocker and Bay Fall coming in. Damn, I must have made Matt just leave the show. That's crazy.
No, I dropped something.
Oh, you're good. Also, Alabama, they got the best coach in the SEC to me in Nate Oates. Plus, they have the college basketball unicorn coming in Grant Nelson. And plus, Mark Sears is returning. So Alabama and Arkansas are my favorites to win the conference, but that's just my opinion. Watch, I'm going to curse them all, and they're not going to do anything.
That's what we're doing right now. Yeah.
Yeah, we're yeah. If they don't win the conference, if of course we have like a 4-team shot here. If Tennessee, A&M, Arkansas, and Alabama don't win the conference, they are officially the latest victims of the less is more sports curse.
Congratulations, Missouri.
Hey, Missouri might have a nice little team though. They
They
might be a
do.
little everything school. They're having a great football season too. Hey,
We didn't
Luther
cause
Burden
that.
is that man.
We didn't cause that one.
No, we did not cause that one. No, actually, we did because we didn't talk about Missouri in the offseason a lot.
That's true.
There we go. So this number 7 narrative is just for you, buddy. West Virginia is the most interesting roster on paper. Twitter tied. Matt, I know what you're gonna say, so just go ahead and get into it, my guy.
It's no cap, but I mean, I feel like people aren't following the story enough. It gets wilder every time. You go from having a Hall of Fame coach to having no coach to Taylor Swift concerts on the side of the road. And I mean, to getting Kyrsa to getting Jesse Edwards in there. Then you lose Trey Mitchell and you now Jose Perez, who was going to be like one of the starting point guard. The starting point guard is in the transfer portal. The
Before you
Raekwon battle
continue,
situation isn't.
I do want to add they had Jesse Edwards. They were about to lose Jesse Edwards, and then Jesse Edwards comes back.
Yes, the whole Raekwon battle waiver situation.
Yeah.
It's incredible. This West Virginia story. It's just going to be so fascinating to see what the team actually looks like on their opening game. I mean, it's been the most fascinating, wild story in college basketball this offseason, and there's been a lot of great stories. But yeah, that's why it's no cap for me. It's because every time I think like, okay, West Virginia's got an okay roster. Oh, Perez is in the transfer portal. He may be going to Michigan, and I'm like, oh, okay, well there's another wrench in it. But I mean, yeah, I feel kind of sorry for Mountaineer fans, but I've been really enjoying like this soap opera that's been unfolding before my eyes, and I cannot wait for that 30 for 30.
It's definitely gonna be a great 30 for 30. But you make a lot of good points. But I can't just agree with you for the entire show. That wouldn't be any fun, would it?
Oh, that's never any fun.
And I'm going to cap this, and it's going to be a little anticlimactic, I guess, with my team that it does have the most interesting roster on paper, because ironically enough, to me, it's Ole Miss, and seeing the Texas cap, you know why that's really, really ironic. My opinion, they have 2 elite shot blockers that transferred in from the transfer portal, and Musa Sissy and from Oklahoma State, and Jamarion Sharp from WKU. Players like Brandon Murray from Georgetown and Austin Nunez from Arizona State transfer in. They still have Jamin Breakfield, shout out to the Brotherhood. And all this is led by Chris Beard as the head coach. And Matt's probably going to hate me for this. Actually, is Matt frozen? That is wild. Yeah, Matt, you're probably going to hate me for this, but are you back, bud?
Yes, I am. I told you I froze. I told you froze, but I was telling you to keep going.
I just now got the message, but yeah. So you're gonna hate me for this next joke, but like all this Ole Miss led by a Chris Beard team could literally have the SEC in a chokehold.
Oh dear God, no, no.
I feel like the charges were dropped, so we're allowed to make that joke on the pod.
Oh my God, please don't let that come back and bite us in the ass.
No, I mean again, the charges are dropped, so I feel like it's all fun and games with this, but I don't think it'll bite us in the ass at all. So obviously, I would not risk the podcast to make an insensitive joke like that.
That's true.
If the charges were still pending, I would have not made that joke. Just so we're clear.
Les secretly hates me and has been plotting my downfall by his own hand this whole time.
I could not. I don't have a hate Matt bone in my body, so I think we're good.
Good.
Anyways,
right.
Ready to move. Right after that, we ready to move on to number 8?
Yes, because this is gonna be fun. This one's one of my favorite topics.
This is the Matt McClellan special topic right here. Number 8, mid majors are better now than ever. Twitter says no cap. Matt, what you got?
Twitter is right again. It's no cap. And I'm not even going to tell you why they're better. We've already talked about that with NIL and with transfer portal stuff. What I am going to do is put on the Santa Matt hat and give you some gifts already for your March bracket making, which is here are some teams that you need to start investigating buying stock now for. Number one, Drake out of the Missouri Valley, Tucker DeVires, very good player. Keep your eyes on that team. Drake's going to do some stuff this year. UNC Asheville, led by Drew Pember, absolute bucket machine, will be a one-man wrecking crew if UNC Asheville makes the playoffs in like that 13 to 15 range. College of Charleston, they've got size and they've got depth, and they're going to be a very tough out for your favorite team or the team you pick to make to the Final Four. Colgate, we saw them give teams a run for their money last year. I think they're going to be even more explosive and run even more motion this year. Be ready for them. They're going to be the Colgate Raiders. They're going to be really damn good. And finally, if you're not already familiar with him, learn the name of Zeke Mayo and the South Dakota State Jackrabbits out of the Summit League. That's another dude who's a one-man wrecking crew. And if he gets a control of a game, it's game over if you're not playing your A game, if you're a team from a Power 5 conference. Those are my top 5 buy stock now teams. They all have really good players and really good depth. You've been warned by Santa Matt. So let's go now to hear Les's take on the mid majors.
Buy stock now or be afraid to be put on the Santa Matt naughty list.
I'll
Anyways,
find the house.
yeah, I mean Matt pretty much he's the mid-major expert here. I'm not you damn Skippy if you think I'm gonna debate with him. Obviously it's no cap for me. This was the easiest question by far. We talk about the added parity in college hoops because of the transfer portal and NIL regularly. Plus we had 2 in the Final Four last year. Enough said. I don't think I need to go on about that. So I think it's ready. We just move on to number 9. Number 9, USC will win the Pac-12. Twitter tied. Matt, what you got?
I actually do mean cap this time.
Cowboy man.
We're going out west for the Pac-12, Pac-12 after dark. There are some really good teams in the Pac-12. I mean, we talked about Colorado with the Silva. We've talked about Arizona with Caleb Love, Omar Bialo. They've got a really good team. But the team I'm most interested in, a team I think will match up with USC very well, is their old rivals, the UCLA Bruins and Mick Cronin. And here's why. We sleep on them as well. That's one of the big themes I found when I was researching. We're sleeping on teams that seem to be going through a bit of a lull. Jaime Jaquez and Tiger Campbell are gone now. So we're not really, UCLA, well, they lost those guys. Well, we talk about the transfer portal. UCLA went to the FIBA portal. They didn't go to the transfer portal. They went to the FIBA portal. They got Jan Vide, who's 6'7" Slovenian. He's played against the world's top competition. He's played a pro-style offense. Ade Mara, he comes from Spain. 7'3" projected lottery pick with a 7'7" wingspan. That's pretty good. And he's also played against the world's best competition or professional competition. Then they've got a really good Turkish wing in Berke Buyuktansel, who's really good at cutting. He's really done well from all accounts in secret scrimmages UCLA has played the past couple weeks. He's a good Turkish wing. Be aware of him. And Adem Bona is back after an injury-plagued season. He's going to be back. You have Dylan Andrews moving the ball up the floor now. He's going to have an expanded role. And they've added Lazar Stefanovic from Colorado to shoot the rest. The Bruins are going to be one hell of an interesting team coming this fall.
And we got about 10 minutes to go, so we got to speed round through these next several questions. But as it's capped to me as well, to me it's Arizona, and it's not too much of a debate. They got the best coach in Tommy Lloyd, best backcourt with the transfers, Jaden Bradley from Alabama and Caleb Love from North Carolina, plus Kylan Boswell is still there. Omer Balu is still there. KJ Lewis as a freshman, I want to talk about him real quickly. I watched a lot of him following Ron Holland at Duncanville. I just can't, but I am going to add a little bit off topic. I just can't wait till Arizona comes to Cameron and more specifically, Caleb Love comes to Cameron and plays against Duke. That's all I'm saying. Moving on to number 10. Gonzaga is the most underrated team in the country. Twitter tied. Matt, what you got?
No cap here, but I'm putting on my Spokane warm hat to stay cool. Now, let me tell you why I think they're the most underrated team. I love Randy Bennett. I love Aiden Mahaney. St. Mary's is going to be one hell of a watch this year. But I think we're falling into the same trap as the UCLA situation here. Yes, Gonzaga has lost a lot of talent, but they've still got a hell of a group of starters now. You bring back Anton Watson, you bring back Nolan Hickman, one of my other favorite players of all time. Les knows this. Graham Ike has transferred in from Wyoming to play center after some injury-plagued season. One of the best names in the transfer portal, Steel Venters. Badass name, even sweeter shot. He's in the lineup now. And let's not forget that they went out and probably got one of the top 5 prizes in the transfer portal when they got Ryan Nemhard to join this roster. Now, that's a solid group of 5 starters right there. And there are some breakout candidates on their bench, too. That group's led by Ben Gregg and Luka Kranjovic, another guy who's from a foreign market making a big impact in American college ball. And I'm also keen on Yun Suk Yao. He's a Korean player. He's 6'8" and dominated in FIBA this year, averaging 25.6 points the last time he did back in 2021. So let me tell you something. Gonzaga is underrated for the first time in a while, and they're going to have a big chip on their shoulder, and they've got a really good roster.
I'm capping this, and I don't even think they're the most underrated team in their conference. I think that's St. Mary's, led by, of course, the naked mole rap himself, Randy Bennett, and Aiden Mahaney, who, if Max Abmas doesn't win Player of the Year, Mahaney's my second choice. And this might be a little bit of a hot take, but I think Mahaney could have a potential Jimmer Fredette-like impact at some point in his college career. We all know Jimmer Mania. We all remember the absolute excitement it was during those times at BYU. Dude is an absolute bucket and could be a big reason why St. Mary's upsets Gonzaga as conference champions. I'm going to go ahead and say that now. Moving on, we got 2 more. We got about 6 minutes left. Got 2 more narratives. Number 11, Memphis, not FAU, will win the American Athletic Conference.
This is cap, but it's going to be extremely close cap because, Penny Hardaway, what he does year in and year out is just really impressive. I call it penny power. I mean, he goes out, he adds veterans in Javon Quinterly, Caleb Mills, and Jordan Brown from the Louisiana Raging Cajuns. And they have a solid group of youngsters coming in Javante Taylor, Carl Sharifan, and Aston Hardaway, who's a big power forward and the Suns coach. There's another possible addition to that group too, but he's having some legal issues, and I'm not going to get into that right now. That's not what we're here for. But if he plays, they'll be even deeper. I think it's going to be a hell of a race between FAU and Memphis for the ACC title. But I do
AAC
title. But I think it's cap right now, and FAU will pull it out in the end. But it's going to be a fun battle.
I agree. This is cap. FAU basically has everyone back from the Final Four team, and unless they UNC this shit, I'm not betting against them. That's all I got to say about that. Moving on to our last narrative, and we got to talk about a team that we love on this podcast. Boise State will be this year's FAU or San Diego State. Twitter tied. Matt, what you got?
This is no cap, but it's a half cap. I'm going to get into it real quick. Your beloved Boise State Broncos are not. They have an Ashton Genty on their team in Tyson Degenhart. He's going to be a really good player. Averaged 14 points last year. He's going to take a huge step up. Was already first team Mountain West. His role is going to expand. He's going to be fine. Max Rice, coach's son, 6th-year shooter, lethal 3-ball, shoots 40% from 3. Shanzir Agbo, he's back as well. He transferred in last year from Texas Tech, took some time to get used to the system, and now he's back. And they've got some good transfers, too, and Cameron Martin from KU. Omar Stanley comes in from St. John's. Robbie Anderson III, he's an interesting one. Won Freshman of the Year at UC San Diego and now comes in. And you've got Emmanuel Ugbo from Germany coming in as well, another international guy. And that's going to be one hell of a solid team. But less, get ready for this. There's another team in the Mountain West. Another team, man. And you know what? It's a Pitino world, my brother. It's a Pitino world. Not Rick this time, but Richard. The New Mexico Lobos. Gonna shock the world. I think they've got a really good group here. You've got Jamal Mashburn Jr. You've got Jalen House. You've got Jermall Baker Jr. coming in from Fresno State via Kentucky. You've got House and Mashburn. They're going to be one of the best backcourts in the country. They added Nelly Jr. Joseph from Nigeria via Iona. He knows how those Patinos play. He's going to be a really important big man for them. They got him in the portal. They got one of the most surprising portal additions in recent memory for me when they've got Mustafa. Oh man, his last name didn't pop up. They've got Mustafa from Dayton. He's going to be a really good player. He's going to be a hell of a wild card at the forward position. You add in another returning guy in Donovan Dent and Tamu CC transfer Isaac Musilla, I'm sorry. That's a pretty fun team right there. I am really high on what Richard Pitino and those New Mexico Lobos are going to do in the Mountain West too. We all talk about San Diego State. That's a conference that's got some really good teams that are also going to shock the world. But I love me some Lobos. I love some Jamal Mashburn Jr. I'm excited to see what they're going to do if they get to March when it comes around.
Matt ends in the shark hat, and I end on no cap because, of course, y'all know it's not a Less is More Sports podcast without shouting out Boise State. This is a team that actually upset San Diego State on their senior night. And like Matt said, they got three double-digit scorers returning. And if there's anybody in the country that can make tougher shots than Max Rice, I need to see them. Like you said, Matt, three new transfers: Ronnie Anderson III from UC San Diego, Cam Martin from Kansas. If Bill Self recruits you, you got to be doing something right. And Omar Stanley from St. John's. And they play a solid non-conference schedule to prepare them for the tournament. Clemson, Iowa State, Virginia Tech, St. Mary's, Washington State. Good experience before conference play. And hopefully, they play better than the football team. But of course, I might have jinxed them like we typically do on this podcast. So if Boise State is not the FAU or San Diego State of this year's team, Boise State will never sponsor this podcast. I feel like I'm just jinxing them left and right. But anyways, that is all the time we have for today. As always, like and subscribe to the Less is More Sports YouTube, Spotify channels. Tell us in the comment sections below what you liked, what you don't like about each episode. Tell us what you think about these narratives, whether they're cap or no cap. Tell us some of your hot takes heading into the 2023-2024 college basketball season. And as always, stay up to date on the latest and greatest content coming from the Less is More Sports podcast. Follow our social media pages on Facebook, Twitter, and Threads at Less is More Sports. And coming soon, Matt and I are also going to do our annual player draft for the college basketball season, but there's going to be a little bit of a twist this time, so you don't want to miss that. But as always, look forward to another great season in college basketball. It's Matt and I's favorite time of year, and it's going to be great as always. So let us know what you think. Give us your hot takes. We want some fan interaction. And thank you for everyone who is going to listen to this podcast and everyone that's been following along on the first ever Facebook Live of the live podcast. So pretty exciting there.
I wore so many different hats.
You wore so many different hats.
Oh my gosh.
But that's all the time we got for today. Thank you for listening.
Yes, thank you. And I won't wear any hats next time.
You should, though.
Maybe.
You should.
Okay.